Hello, it's Tammy, and I am live today on my Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, so I'm not sure where you're joining me. But if you can hear me, I would love a thumbs up if you could just do that. Let me pull up the comments here, and then I'll know that you can hear me. I'm just going to get set up here. And, mute and there we go. We should be excellent. Ready to go. So I'm super excited and super nervous at the same time. I'm looking at myself over here on the screen. I need to be looking at you. I'm such a geek. Okay. Why am I on live today? Why would I decide to come on and stream live through 3 platforms using a service I've never used before and putting myself out there? Well, it's for good reason. I'm really excited about the changes in my business, and I want to share with you how I'm going to be able to serve you better, but also just kind of introduce you to the new theme and the new kind of feel and vibe happening around conquering conflict is what we used to call it, but now it's called relationships in conflict and how to connect with confidence. So if you are joining me, say hello, let me know where you're watching from. Again, streaming in. Oh, hey, Ralph, I'm going to just put you right up on the screen there. Look at this. Ralph, God bless and protect you. Thank you so much for joining us. That's fabulous. And let me know where you're watching from. I'm always curious to see where I'm connected to, and it's always so vast. It's impressive. So today I wanted to introduce again the Facebook group of Relationships in Conflict, Connect with Confidence, and you can join us there anytime. I will be live streaming on my personal Facebook page, Tammy Dunnett, every Wednesday at noon, bringing you some information and topics to help you transition towards that happy, peaceful, connected life that you've always wanted and deserved. So like I said earlier, I am a little nervous and kind of scared because I've not done this kind of a conversation before where I'm just rambling on for a while. At least I hope it won't feel like a ramble. Awesome. So if you have any comments or questions throughout this, please put them in there. I can see you. Hey, Lake George, New York. Sweet. Thanks, Ralph. I thought I would just start by telling you a little bit about my story. And I think that's important only because it kind of gives you a sense of where I'm from and how I got to be on this journey of helping others develop their own strategies to connect with confidence and overcome that negative stuff in their lives. If you've been following me for a while, or if you've been connected with me for a while, or even if you're a past student, you know that I was bullied in the past quite a long time. And it took about 4 years, or actually I was involved in 4 years of harassment from a supervisor, but I didn't recognize the signs until about the 2-year mark. Before that, I thought I was managing. Like a lot of people think, they will rationalize these behaviors away in terms of they're just a bad boss. They're incompetent. And we tend to do that to minimize the impact so that we can safely continue to go to work in some sort of capacity. And I had no idea that I was actually dealing with a bully until that 2-year mark, when I had a conversation with a friend who I'd happened to get to know through work. And she had shared that she was really glad she got to know me. And I thought that was quite an odd statement. I'm like, well, I'm glad I got to know you too, but that's kind of weird. You just blurt that out. There was a little nug there, a little intuition. So I asked her about it. And that's when I found out that my harasser had actually been poisoning my work environment. And a lot of things just clicked in that moment. And that was my aha, I'm being bullied moment. From there, actually, things didn't get better. Thanks for tuning in there, Cocoa Beach, Florida. Gosh, I hope it's nice there. It sounds beautiful. From there, things didn't get better, though. You would hope that with the realization and the awareness of what the problem is, that you'd be able to put in the right strategies. Unfortunately, I continued to use the only strategy I had been using for the last 2 years, and that was to try and teach her how to treat me. And I learned that I was a right fighter, but that came way later. And in that right fighting moments, I wasn't able to see that I was getting sick. And in fact, I ended up getting so sick that my anxiety and panic, all new to me, like at the age of 40. I'd never experienced this stuff before. And I became so afraid to leave my house that I was diagnosed with agoraphobia, right? It first started with I was afraid to see her. And then I was afraid to go to the building. Then I was afraid to go down the street. And then I was afraid to leave my house. I didn't want to look at my emails because she was always there. She was just pervasive in everything in my life. And when I talk about it, sometimes it's like the weather, which I love when I can do that. And other times I feel like the emotions are still there. And they are a bit heightened today because I've been working on another project to help share my story and my journey to benefit you guys. So I've been kind of dwelling in this past for a little bit today. And what's interesting about that is it wasn't until I surrendered that I learned how sick I was. And it's crazy to look back and think that I thought I was functioning, that I thought I had everything under control, that I was managing. And the story I was telling myself was that I wasn't going to let her win. I knew I could still work and I could function and be productive. And that was kind of my mantra every day. I'd get up and go, she's not going to win. I can be productive. But I didn't even see how sloppy my work was getting, how my productivity had dropped, how my relationships had eroded because I trusted nobody. It was quite the mess. So I was in that dark, yucky, mucky, overcast kind of place every single day until I had surrendered. And so that surrendering was actually the beginning of my recovery and my oh shit moments, I call them, because I couldn't see how I was contributing until I surrendered and started to take the journey of healing for myself. So if you've ever felt the weight of a challenging relationship, maybe you've been in the same kind of place as I have, or maybe you're not in that dark spot. Lord, I hope you're not in that dark spot. But perhaps you're starting to notice that there's some relationships that are a bit more challenging. Just comment in the comment box. Let me know if you've been struggling in the past as well. And I want to help you today, just give you a few things that'll help you maybe transition towards that piece. Of course, you'll always get more in that Facebook group I was mentioning, and you can go over there, join us anytime. There's already tons of free stuff in there. I just rebranded it. Again, relationships and conflict is what you want to look for. Okay, I'm just learning a new system here, so let me switch out. I think I want this slide next. Surrendering, that's what I want. Okay, so as I mentioned, once I surrendered, that's when the lessons started to come. So for you, in your relationships, what is it that you may need to surrender? It may be the need to be right. That was mine. My ego was big. It thought it was protecting me, but in fact, it wasn't allowing me to see what I was doing that was also contributing to the situation. And so when I surrendered into, and actually when I say surrender, I was giving in. I was letting her win. That's how deep it was. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to give into the darkness. That was where I was in surrender. I was at this tipping point, I felt, where I could just fall deep into that hole and never come back out, because who cared anyways, right? Or the other way people surrender is they give up their power in order to step back and kind of see what's going on. And so for me, I had to step back and put myself as a priority again. And that was really the first step to recovery. When I was going through it, though, I just got to take a step back. I do get a little sidetracked with my own thoughts. They race a little bit when I get onto this topic. When I was going through it, man, I just knew there was an answer. I knew that there was a solution, and I knew that if somebody could just hook me up with it, I would be able to resolve the problem that I was having with this relationship. But the problem I was having is nobody seemed to know what it was. I was doing everything that was being suggested to me. Medical attention was focused on stress leave and medications to help me sleep. They definitely wanted me to take antidepressants. That's a story for another day. So I was doing everything there that I could. The organizational system was trying to help me by remediating my behavior. They felt that I needed more training on how to be a nice person. And while I begrudgingly took some of those courses, those weren't the answers. And I just knew that there was something so elusive out there that it just seemed to evade everybody's ability to help me connect. Because when I look back at everything, I was driven towards connection. I actually wasn't trying to fight with her. I was trying to be on the same side as her. And so that is kind of where this connection theme has always been there throughout everything I have done. But nobody had the answers for me. And so when I stopped fighting in that surrendering moment, when I stopped fighting, the answers were able to present themselves to me as I started to look at myself and I started to look inward. Because guess what? I had four stress leaves. And every time, a little bit longer, a little different strategy, get my mindset, I go back to work. And every time I went back into the same environment where nothing had changed, the people didn't change, the rules didn't change. And so at some point, you got to look at yourself and see, what is the dynamic? What is the edge? What is not working? And so that's what happened when I was able to give in. And so in your relationships, I'm wondering if you can think of something that you may need to surrender in order to move forward, just to start that internal process and that dialogue. Okay, I want to talk about the second thing that I learned. Let me just go to key point number 2. Well, that was the desire for connection. I did kind of mention that already, in that my driving force throughout the entire experience, and I assume this is probably the same for you. If it is, drop it in the comments, let me know, was not about being adversaries, but it was actually about being colleagues, supporting each other. I wanted to know that I could go to her and say, we got a problem, but I know I can trust you that we're going to work this out and come up with a solution. It didn't mean I had to win all the time, but it just meant that I was heard. I had a voice at the table, that we were collaborating as much as, flexibility allowed there. But I had spent so many years trying to win that relationship was not going to recover. That one I had to let go of before I could start to apply these lessons in the next relationship, because sometimes the best decision you take is to leave. And now that I've had, 12, has it been 12 years in between me and her? It's quite possible. No, it hasn't been. 10 years maybe. I think now we could have a conversation if she was willing, but I don't know if I really want to go there. Still probably going to be emotionally charged, not going to lie. Okay, I got sidetracked again. Desire for connection. Yeah. So when I was able to see the relationship in terms of what I was bringing to it, and I recognized my errors in judgment, I had to reflect back on, okay, where did I learn how to deal in conflict? Where did I learn that this was the way to respond when there was conflict? There was a lot of soul searching and a lot of self-reflection, and that is a really important piece of connecting with confidence. But through that process, when I learned that I was a right fighter, and I had learned that from past experiences that were successful, I don't know the trauma I caused, but they were successful, I realized I only had one tool, and that tool was not enough to help get me through this situation. I needed more tools. I was so deficient in my ability to communicate with this person that my desire for connection was being lost in my desire to be right. And that's not a great way to connect. So if you have ever had an experience where your skill set was a little deficient, maybe share it in the comments. And I'm sure we've all had moments where you've gone into a conversation and things just didn't go the way you had hoped. You reflect, you try again, and hopefully things go well for you. Okay, let's go to the next one. Start living now. So as I recovered and went through a healing journey, I began my studies in my Master's of Nursing, which focused on bullying in the workplace. And I spent the next 4 years researching it and understanding it through multiple different lenses and really honing in on just what the heck was in that environment that really led us, the two of us, down this path towards this bully relationship. And as a result of that, I've come up with a few things. So starting to live now meant that I had to become aware of the issues. And I had said earlier, it took 2 years for me to even know I was being bullied because I didn't even know the signs. I mean, gosh, I'm a 40-year-old woman and I don't even know the signs. How is this possible? Well, once I learned the signs and I was able to identify the strategies to help combat them. And you'll find those actually, there's a free download, connectwithconfidence.me. I've provided 10 scripted responses to help you start living now and start putting in those safe boundaries for you. So if you want to go to connectwithconfidence.me, you can get those for free. There's 10 scripted responses to the most offensive behaviors that we most commonly see in the workplace so that you can start living right now. Start moving out of fear and into action and creating those safe boundaries for you. There's also bonus content in there as well. And I talked to you about my 3-phase strategy to move from intention into action. So make sure you go get that if you haven't already. Let me just see what I put down in my notes because, I wanted to make sure I at least was somewhat organized. I tend to be more of an off-the-cuff speaker. Here's what I don't want you to feel. I don't want you to feel the aloneness. The aloneness, is that a word? I don't want you to feel loneliness. I don't want you to feel alone. I don't want you to feel fear. I don't want you to feel anxiety or panic. I already went through all of that. And I know you do not have to experience that to have the same revelation that I have had. There was no need for it because all I needed in that moment was someone to show me the way. I was begging people to step in and help me out. I was telling everybody my story. And while they listened and it felt good to have somebody hear me, every single one of them told me their hands were tied. They couldn't do anything. They weren't able to support me. They didn't know how to support me. And because I was too busy being right, and I was too busy looking for somebody else to fix my problem, it never got solved. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? So I actually don't want you to have to go through those feelings. I don't think it's necessary that anybody go through that experience. And I can help position you so that you can reduce the risk. And if it is to be currently happening, to reduce the impact, because physical, mental, financial health is all at risk. Okay. All right. So I think this has been a little bit of a ramble, but it's my first time coming on here and it'll only get better, right? It's about doing the thing that you need to do that you're afraid to do. And so this is me modeling some of the stuff in which I teach to those in my groups. And that is building the confidence, to build the skill set, to come on and do that thing that you need to do. And this has been my life's calling. And I didn't realize that this was my life's calling. Again, I'm looking at my picture over here because I want to know that I'm talking to you. Oh, goodness. Technology is fun. I'm so glad I didn't try to hook an Instagram today because I think that would have been a whole level of stress in itself, but it's coming. Now, where was I? I don't remember. Here's the key message. Here's what I was hoping I conveyed today. 1, you don't need to live in fear, anxiety, panic, worry that your relationship is a toxic one. We can help define that for you right away. I mean, there are bad days and there are bullies, and knowing the difference matters. It's all in that document, connectwithconfidence.me, as you see on the screen. You can go there and grab that, because when you have information, then you can start to build tools. So that's the second thing I want you to know is, first is you need to surrender something that you have been doing in the past that is not working. Find out what pieces are missing, and that might be the information that I was missing in terms of understanding that the behaviors that I was being subjected to were in fact really toxic behaviors. And had I recognized it at the very first meeting, because it started with our very first meeting, I would have had a different conversation. I would have had a different approach. Instead, I just went, I can teach her. I couldn't teach her shit. Okay. So surrender what's not working, get the information and the resources to help you identify where your gap is. And then you need to take some sort of informed action so you can start living today. And in that document, I've got a whole 3-step phase process that will take you through going from setting your intention about creating your boundaries maybe, or speaking up safely, or creating a space where you can have a conversation. And then you have to move into action. And so sometimes the scary part is, what do I say? I know that's the scary part. And so I've actually reduced and I've taken away that scary part by giving you exact things to say to start that conversation. Okay, so go ahead and grab that if you haven't already. Now, I've already walked through that fire and you do not need to. If you'd like to join us in the Facebook group, head on over there. There will be live teachings there as well. I'll probably start next week. And it'll just be bridging off of this Facebook, kind of a hello, let's chat for a little while. Then on Thursdays, we go a little deeper and actually dive into some content to help you move forward faster so that you can really get focused on that connection and that happy, healthy relationship that you want. So I'm going to be here live every Wednesday at noon, although except next Wednesday, I realized I got myself a hair appointment, so the time will be a little different, but I'll be there. Thank you so much for those who tuned in and commented. It was great to see you here. I wish I could be there if the weather is nicer. It's kind of yucky here today. But I think I have blabbed on long enough today. Definitely have a little reflecting to do on how I prepare for these, even though I had tons of stuff written down. I got to do some work here still. We will see you next week.